If someone can offend you, they can control you. Not with force, not with logic, but with a single sentence, spoken at the right angle, a look, a tone, a word chosen specifically because they knew it would land. And when it lands, you flinch, you react, you lose. This video is not about emotional healing. It's about emotional warfare, and by the end, you will understand the 8 laws that separate those who are controlled by words from those who have become untouchable. Let me describe your last 48 hours. Someone said something to you. Maybe it was dismissive, maybe it was passive, maybe it was wrapped in a joke, so you couldn't even call it out without looking weak. And on the surface, you moved on. But underneath, you replayed it. Once, twice, you constructed arguments in the shower, comebacks you'll never deliver, defenses for accusations no one formally made. You told yourself it didn't matter, but your nervous system didn't get the memo. And now, 48 hours later, that person isn't thinking about you. They're not replaying anything. They've moved on completely. But you're still in the courtroom, still pleading your case to a judge who left the room 2 days ago. And somewhere in that loop, a question forms, one you've never said out loud. Why does this still get to me? That question is the beginning of dark intelligence. Let's be precise, because this term has been diluted by content that confuses power with cruelty. Dark intelligence is not manipulation. It's not sociopathy rebranded for clicks. It is the ability to observe human behavior, including your own, without emotional interference. Think of it this way. Most people experience life through reaction. Something happens, they feel, they respond based on that feeling. Then they justify the response later. This is how most humans are wired, and it's exactly why most humans are controllable. Dark intelligence is the refusal to participate in that sequence. It's the development of a gap, a space between stimulus and response, where emotion is observed but not obeyed. This is not emotional suppression. Suppression is denial. This is emotional sovereignty. You feel it, you see it, you choose not to be governed by it. The ancient Stoics understood this. So did every great strategist in history. Machiavelli didn't write about cruelty. He wrote about clarity, seeing the board while others only see their feelings about the board. Robert Greene didn't teach manipulation. He exposed the patterns most people are too reactive to notice. Dark intelligence is not about becoming cold. It's about becoming conscious. Conscious of what triggers you, conscious of what controls you, and ultimately, conscious enough to remove the leash. Before we discuss the laws, you need to understand why you haven't developed this already. You're not weak, you're not broken, you're conditioned, and that conditioning has 3 layers. Layer 1, identity attachment. Most people don't have beliefs, their beliefs have them. When someone challenges what you think, you don't experience it as intellectual disagreement. You experience it as a personal attack, because your opinions have fused with your sense of self. Insult a man's idea, and he feels like you've insulted his soul. This is why debates become wars. This is why internet comments ruin people's sleep. The ego cannot distinguish between "you're wrong" and "you're worthless." And until you break that fusion, every disagreement will feel like an assault. Layer 2, social approval addiction. Human beings are tribal by nature. For thousands of years, being rejected by the group meant death, exile, starvation, predators. That wiring hasn't disappeared. It's just been redirected. Now it's not about survival. It's about likes, comments, invitations, being perceived as likable, valuable, worthy. The modern human is not afraid of lions. They're afraid of being left on red. This addiction makes you controllable, because anyone who holds social approval over your head owns your nervous system. A boss who might disapprove, a friend group that might exclude, an audience that might unfollow. If their opinion determines your peace, you are a puppet, and they hold the strings. Layer 3. Emotional leakage. This is the most dangerous because it's invisible to the person doing it. Emotional leakage is when your inner state becomes visible to others without your consent. The flicker of anger in your eyes, the slight tension in your jaw, the change in your voice when you've been affected. Most people leak constantly. They think they're hiding their frustration, but their body announces it. They think they're being calm, but their energy is screaming, and those who are watching, those with high social intelligence, see everything. They see what bothers you, they see where your buttons are, and they store that information. Not always with malice, sometimes just out of instinct. But the result is the same. You are now mapped, and anything mapped can be navigated. Let's drop the abstract. Let me show you where this actually plays out. Because psychological attacks don't arrive with announcements. They arrive disguised. Attack Type 1. Passive aggression. This is the art of hostility without fingerprints. It sounds like a compliment, but lands like a cut. You're so brave for wearing that. I wish I could be as relaxed as you about my career. No, it's fine. I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. The passive-aggressive person gets to wound you while maintaining deniability. And if you react, you look crazy. You look emotional. Because technically, they didn't say anything wrong. This is a psychological trap, and most people walk right into it. They either explode and lose credibility, or they absorb it and lose peace. Both are losses. Attack Type 2. Disrespect tests. These are more subtle. They don't look like attacks. They look like small moments. Being interrupted. Being corrected in public. Being volunteered for something without being asked. These aren't accidents. They're calibration attempts. The person is testing how much they can take from you, how much you'll tolerate, how far they can push before you push back. And if you never push back, they now know your limit. It doesn't exist. Attack Type 3. Online humiliation. This is the newest evolution. Public takedowns, screenshots shared, quote tweets designed to invite a mob, comment sections turned into arenas. In previous centuries, you could be humiliated in front of a village. Now you can be humiliated in front of a planet. Permanently, algorithmically, reshared without end. And the psychological weight of this has not yet been fully understood. But the body understands. That's why your hands shake before posting something vulnerable. That's why your stomach drops when your notification count spikes unexpectedly. You're not overreacting. You're responding to a real threat, one that previous generations never had to carry. So what happens when you remain reactive? When you never develop this inner architecture? Let me show you the cost, because it compounds. Cost 1. Status collapse. Every time you react emotionally in front of others, you lower your perceived status. Not because emotions are bad, but because reactivity signals that you are not in control of yourself. Think of the people you respect most. Are they the ones who flinch at every insult? Or the ones who remain unmoved? Calmness is authority. Reactivity is weakness broadcast in real time, and people are always watching, always calculating. Can I trust this person under pressure? Your reaction answers that question. Cost 2. Reactive behavior. When you're reactive, you're not strategic. You make decisions based on emotion. You send messages you later regret. You escalate when you should have paused. You exit rooms you should have stayed in. You stay in rooms you should have left years ago. Reactivity is expensive. It costs relationships. It costs opportunities. It costs self-respect. And every cost gets added to your psychological debt. Cost 3. Predictability. This is the silent killer. When people know what triggers you, they can script your behavior. They can provoke you on command. They can push a button and watch you perform. You think you're being authentic, but you're just being programmable. A machine with known inputs and guaranteed outputs. And if someone can predict you, they can control you. Law 1. Cold processing. The first law is the foundation. Cold processing is the ability to receive information without immediately filtering it through emotion. Someone insults you. Normal processing. How dare they? I need to respond. I need to defend myself. Cold processing. Interesting. What does this tell me about them? About the situation? About what they want from me? Cold processing is not about suppressing your reaction. It's about delaying it, creating a gap between stimulus and response, a gap where intelligence can operate. The untrained mind reacts in milliseconds. The trained mind stretches that window, 1 second, 2 seconds, eventually, as long as you need. In that gap, you're no longer a target, you're an observer, and observers don't get played. They study the player. Law 2. Calculated opacity. Most people are readable. Their emotions are on display. Their preferences are public. Their insecurities are obvious to anyone paying attention. Calculated opacity is the decision to control what you reveal, not through deception, but through discretion. You don't owe the world access to your inner state. You don't owe every person transparency. Transparency is a gift, and gifts are given selectively. The strategically opaque person is difficult to manipulate because manipulation requires knowing what someone wants, fears, or needs. If you don't broadcast those things, you become unreadable, and the unreadable cannot be easily controlled. This doesn't mean becoming cold with loved ones. It means recognizing that not everyone has earned your openness. Some people will use what you reveal against you. Not today, maybe not for months, but eventually. Be selective, be intentional. Let them wonder what you're thinking. Law 3. Emotional alchemy. This law separates the amateur from the architect. Emotional alchemy is the ability to transmute a negative emotion into a strategic advantage. Someone disrespects you. The untrained mind feels anger, expresses anger, loses control. The alchemist feels anger, observes anger, asks, how can this energy serve me? Anger is fuel, but most people burn it immediately. They explode and leave nothing behind. The alchemist stores it, uses it later, for focus, for motivation, for calculated action taken at the right moment. This is not about pretending you don't feel. It's about not wasting what you feel. Every strong emotion is raw material. The question is, will you burn it or build with it? Law 4. Adaptive personas. Here is a truth most people resist. You are not oneself. You are many. You behave differently with your family than with strangers, differently with your boss than with your closest friend, differently online than in person. This is not hypocrisy. This is social intelligence. The problem arises when you become rigid, when you believe you must be authentic in every room. When you perform the same self regardless of context, authenticity is not about consistency. It's about alignment with your goals, and sometimes your goal requires a different face, not a false one, a strategic one. The master of dark intelligence can shift, not to deceive, but to adapt. They are warm when warmth serves the situation, cold when coldness protects them, invisible when visibility is dangerous. This is not manipulation, it's mastery. The self is not a prison, it's a wardrobe. Law 5. Silence dominance. Most people talk too much, especially when they're nervous, especially when they feel accused, especially when silence becomes uncomfortable. They rush to fill the void. They over-explain. They defend when no defense was required. And every word they speak gives their opponent more ammunition. Silence dominance is the ability to let silence exist without needing to rescue it. To sit in discomfort without flinching. To let your non-response become your statement. When someone attacks you and you say nothing, they feel unsettled. Because silence is unreadable, and the unreadable is threatening. The one who speaks first after tension usually loses. The one who can wait controls the room. Learn to love silence. It's your most underused weapon. Law 6. Delayed response. Speed is the enemy of strategy. When you respond immediately, you respond emotionally. When you respond slowly, you respond with intention. Someone sends you a provocative message. The untrained mind responds in seconds, types with emotion, regrets it by the next morning. The trained mind reads it, feels the pull, waits, responds when calm, or doesn't respond at all. Delay is not avoidance, it's control. It signals that you are not at their mercy, that your schedule is not dictated by their emotional demands, that you will respond when you're ready. This applies beyond messages. In negotiations, don't accept immediately. In conflicts, don't escalate immediately. In decisions, don't commit immediately. Time is leverage. Those who move too fast surrender it. Law 7. Neutral facial discipline. Your face is a broadcast system. Most people have no idea what they're transmitting. Micro-expressions, tightened jaws, raised eyebrows, flared nostrils. All of it is data, and anyone paying attention is collecting it. Neutral facial discipline is the practice of controlling your nonverbal signals, not becoming robotic, but becoming intentional. You decide what your face communicates, not your nervous system. This is trained, it's practiced, in front of mirrors, in uncomfortable conversations, in moments where you want to react but choose not to. The person with a disciplined face is difficult to read, and therefore difficult to provoke. Their opponent throws insults like darts, but nothing lands, no flinch, no twitch, just stillness. That stillness is terrifying to the attacker, because they have no feedback. They don't know if they're winning or losing, and in that uncertainty, they start to unravel. Law 8. The non-explanation rule. The final law is the most difficult to internalize because it violates everything you've been taught. You were raised to explain yourself, to justify your decisions, to make others understand. But here's what no one told you. Every explanation is a negotiation, and every negotiation is an invitation to argue. When you explain, you signal that you need their approval. When you don't explain, you signal that you've already decided. I'm not coming to the event. Why? I'm not coming. That's it. No justification, no defense, no opening for debate. The non-explanation rule is not about being rude. It's about recognizing when explanations weaken your position. Some people don't want to understand you. They want to change your mind. And your explanation is the rope they'll use to pull you. Stop handing them rope. Now that you have the laws, I need to show you two paths, two ways of moving through the world. One is default, one is designed. 1. The reactor. The reactor is governed by external stimuli. They wake up and check their phone immediately. They feel anxiety before they've even processed why. Someone cuts them off in traffic. Their entire mood shifts. A critical comment ruins their afternoon. An unreturned message ruins their night. The reactor is not stupid. They may be highly intelligent, but their intelligence is hijacked by emotions they don't control, by people who don't deserve that power. The reactor builds nothing because they're too busy responding. Their life is not designed. It's a series of flinches disguised as decisions. The fortress mind. The fortress mind is not emotionless. They feel everything, but they have constructed an architecture around those feelings, a processing system, a delay mechanism, a filter between the world and their core. Insults arrive at the gate. They are observed, analyzed. Most are discarded. Only the useful ones are allowed entry. The fortress mind is not cold. They are protected. They've built walls, not to hide, but to choose who gets access. They've built towers, not out of ego, but for strategic vision. They see the whole board while others see only their square. And here's the key. The fortress mind was not born this way. They were once a reactor. They were once governed by every opinion, every look, every whisper. But they decided to build, brick by brick, law by law, until they became untouchable. You have the same choice. Now, I want you to consider something uncomfortable. Most people who watch videos like this feel something. They resonate, they nod, they think, I needed to hear this. And then, they scroll to the next video. They consume more, apply nothing. They treat insight like entertainment, and then wonder why nothing changes. If this video meant something to you, prove it. Not to me, to yourself. Leave a comment, not for engagement, but as a marker, a timestamp of the moment you decided to stop being reactive, or don't. But know that silence after insight is a pattern, and patterns become identity. Let's close this. The 8 laws you've learned are tactics, but beneath all of them is a single truth, a silent law that governs everything. What doesn't reach your nervous system cannot rule you. Read that again in your mind. The goal is not to fight every attack. The goal is to let most attacks pass through you, without impact, like wind through an open window. Present, noticed, but never destructive. Most people live with closed windows. Everything hits the glass. Everything creates noise. Everything leaves cracks. The fortress mind opens the window, lets it pass, and remains still. This is not achieved through affirmations. It's not achieved through pretending you don't care. It's achieved through structural change, through training, through the 8 laws applied consistently, until one day, you realize something has shifted. Someone insults you, and you feel nothing. Not suppression, not denial, genuine nothing. Because the part of you that used to flinch has been replaced. By architecture, by design, by a mind you built on purpose. You now understand the 8 laws, but there's something I haven't told you. Something most people never consider. There is a single emotional leak. So subtle, so normalized, so invisible, that it destroys dominance instantly. Even in people who think they've mastered themselves, it's not anger, it's not fear, it's not insecurity. It's something you do every day, without realizing it, and it broadcasts weakness to everyone paying attention. In the next video, I'll expose it, and once you see it, you'll never unsee it in yourself or others. I'll see you there.